What if I told you that your body is not secretly carrying around 20 pounds of toxic waste, silently poisoning you from the inside, but instead is performing one of the most complex, intelligent survival processes ever shaped by evolution, moment by moment, molecule by molecule, without asking for your attention or belief? That idea alone invites us to pause, because fear spreads faster than understanding, and the human mind is easily captivated by dramatic images of danger hiding within. Yet biology is rarely dramatic in that way. It is subtle, disciplined, and remarkably honest. Your body is not a passive container where harm accumulates unchecked. It is an active, self-regulating system that has kept humans alive through famine, infection, and environmental change for hundreds of thousands of years. The liver, in particular, has become a symbol of modern anxiety, a place we imagine as clogged, burdened, and overwhelmed. But when we look closely, scientifically and calmly, we find something far more extraordinary. The liver is a dynamic chemical processor, filtering blood, modifying compounds, neutralizing potential threats, and preparing waste for elimination in a continuous flow. It does not wait. It does not hoard. It responds. Every breath you take, every meal you eat, every hormone released during stress passes through this organ, where decisions are made at a cellular level about what stays, what changes, and what leaves. The notion of toxic waste stuck inside us often reflects how disconnected we've become from understanding our own physiology. We live in an age of speed, overload, and constant stimulation, and when the body signals fatigue or discomfort, we search for a single hidden culprit. But the body rarely works that way. Discomfort is usually not evidence of something lodged and festering. It is feedback. It is the language of systems under pressure, asking for adjustment rather than rescue. There is a quiet humility in realizing that the liver has been doing its job since before language existed, long before supplements, cleanses, or protocols. It evolved, not for comfort, but for survival, and it is astonishingly resilient. The real question, then, is not how to force it to flush imagined toxins, but how we can stop interfering with its natural rhythm. How often do we confuse exhaustion with contamination, or imbalance with buildup, simply because fear offers a simpler story than complexity? When we begin to see the body not as a fragile machine filled with hidden threats, but as an intelligent partner navigating a challenging environment, something shifts. Curiosity replaces panic, respect replaces urgency, and we start listening not for promises of instant cleansing, but for signals that tell us how well our internal systems are adapting to the lives we ask them to support. Asterisk. The liver is often described with language borrowed from storage and stagnation, as though it were a dark room where harmful substances pile up over time, waiting to be dramatically expelled. Scientifically, this image doesn't hold. The liver is not a container. It is a process. It is an organ defined by motion, transformation, and constant decision-making at the cellular level. Blood flows through it continuously, carrying nutrients, hormones, metabolic byproducts, and foreign compounds, and the liver responds in real time, altering chemical structures so the rest of the body can remain stable. What we casually label as toxins are, in reality, a wide range of substances with very different origins and destinies. Some are produced by normal metabolism, others come from food, air, medications, or alcohol. The liver doesn't treat these as enemies to be trapped. It treats them as information. Enzymes modify them, reduce their reactivity, bind them to other molecules, and prepare them for safe removal through bile or urine. This work happens continuously, not episodically, and certainly not in a way that allows pounds of material to accumulate. The idea of buildup often arises because we feel something building inside us: fatigue, heaviness, brain fog, inflammation. But feelings are not measurements of mass, they are signals of rate. When the liver's workload increases faster than its capacity to process because of chronic overnutrition, persistent stress hormones, alcohol, or nutrient deficiencies, the system slows slightly, not because it is clogged, but because it is prioritizing survival. This slowdown can change blood sugar regulation, fat metabolism, and inflammatory signaling, creating sensations we interpret as internal congestion. Modern life amplifies this misunderstanding. We are exposed to more chemical inputs than ever before, yet we move less, sleep less, and eat foods that require more metabolic effort to process while providing fewer supportive nutrients. The liver adapts, as it always has, but adaptation has a cost. Efficiency declines before failure ever appears. This stage is subtle, and because it doesn't feel dramatic, we invent dramatic explanations to fill the gap. There is also a psychological comfort in imagining something stuck inside us. If the problem is a blockage, then the solution is force. Flush it out, cleanse it away, reset everything at once. Biology rarely works that way. The liver responds best not to extremes, but to consistency. It relies on steady blood flow, adequate protein, micronutrients like zinc and B vitamins, sufficient hydration, and regular elimination through the gut. These are not heroic interventions. They are environmental conditions. When we stop imagining the liver as a passive victim of toxic accumulation and begin to see it as an adaptive engine responding to its inputs, responsibility gently shifts back to daily choices, not with blame, but with clarity. The body is not holding on to waste out of neglect or failure. It is negotiating balance under pressure, doing exactly what it was designed to do in circumstances that demand more than biology was ever meant to carry alone. When people describe feeling heavy, foggy, or inflamed, the language they use often points inward, as if something foreign has taken up residence inside them. But from a physiological perspective, these sensations are rarely about something being stuck. They are about timing, flow, and energy. The body is a network of moving parts, and health depends less on purity than on pace. When systems slow, signals change. When signals change, we feel different. That difference is not a warning of hidden poison, but a message about altered momentum. At the center of this momentum is metabolism, the speed at which cells exchange materials, transform energy, and clear liver enzymes operate within narrow ranges, influenced by temperature, hydration, nutrient availability, and hormonal balance. They don't switch off when conditions are imperfect. They adapt. If sleep is reduced, stress hormones rise. If stress hormones rise, glucose production increases. If glucose remains elevated, fat metabolism shifts. None of this is random. It is coordinated, intelligent, and responsive. Yet each adjustment slightly alters the workload placed on the liver. This is why chronic stress feels different from acute stress. In short bursts, the body mobilizes resources efficiently. Over time, however, the same signals compete for attention. Detoxification pathways require amino acids, antioxidants, and energy. When those resources are diverted toward constant alertness or inflammation, processing slows not because the liver is overwhelmed beyond function, but because it is choosing priorities. Survival always comes before optimization. The modern environment quietly reinforces this slowdown. We eat quickly, often foods designed for convenience rather than metabolic harmony. We sit for long hours, reducing circulation that would normally help transport metabolic byproducts to the liver for processing. We underhydrate, subtly thickening blood and lymphatic flow. None of these factors create a dramatic failure. They create friction, and friction, sustained long enough, feels like heaviness. Brain fog follows a similar pattern. It is not evidence of toxins rising to the head, but of altered blood sugar regulation, inflammatory signaling, and neurotransmitter balance. The liver plays a role in all of these, managing glucose release, amino acid availability, and hormone breakdown. When its timing shifts, the brain notices first, because the brain is exquisitely sensitive to small metabolic changes. What's important here is compassion for the body and for ourselves. These sensations are often interpreted as signs of internal neglect or damage, but they are more accurately signs of adaptation under load. The body is not failing. It is compensating. It is doing its best with the signals it receives. Understanding this reframes the question. Instead of asking how to remove something imagined to be stuck, we ask how to reduce the pressure that slows the system down. How do we restore ease of movement at a cellular level? How do we create conditions where enzymes don't have to rush or ration resources? When we see discomfort as feedback rather than contamination, we stop fighting the body and start listening to it, allowing balance to return not through force, but through alignment. When we talk about supporting the liver, the word support matters more than we often realize. It implies partnership rather than control, cooperation rather than correction. The liver does not respond well to extremes because it is not designed for sudden, artificial swings. Its chemistry depends on gradient subtle differences in concentration, pressure, and flow that allow molecules to move where they are needed. Water, for example, is not a cleanser in a dramatic sense. It is a medium Without adequate hydration, the very pathways that move waste out of the body become less efficient, not blocked, just slower. Fiber plays a similarly quiet role. When the liver packages waste into bile, it relies on the digestive system to complete the process. Fiber binds to these compounds, preventing reabsorption and guiding them outward. Without enough fiber, the liver may do its job perfectly, only to see its efforts partially undone. This is not toxicity accumulating, but a loop that never quite closes. Protein often goes overlooked in conversations about cleansing, yet many detoxification reactions require amino acids. These are the raw materials that allow enzymes to modify substances safely. When protein intake is insufficient, the liver must prioritize, slowing less urgent processes to preserve essential ones. Again, this is adaptation, not dysfunction. Movement adds another layer. Gentle, regular activity increases circulation, helping metabolic byproducts reach the liver and kidneys efficiently. Stillness does not cause harm by itself, but prolonged inactivity changes the dynamics of flow, making everything feel heavier than it truly is. Even rest has a biochemical dimension. During calm states, the body shifts from urgency to maintenance. Hormonal signals quiet, allowing detoxification pathways to operate without competition. What we often call a cleanse is simply the return of conditions, where the body can do what it was already designed to do, steadily, patiently, and without drama. There is a quiet relief that comes from realizing the body is not a problem to be fixed, but a conversation to be understood. So many health narratives are built on suspicion, as if the body were careless or negligent, allowing harm to accumulate unless constantly corrected. Yet biology tells a different story. Every cell is oriented toward preservation. Every organ, especially the liver, operates with a bias toward protection, balance, and survival. When something feels off, it is not evidence of betrayal, but of communication. The liver does not judge lifestyle choices or demand perfection. It responds to patterns. It adapts to what is repeated, not what is occasional. This is where compassion becomes physiological. Consistent nourishment, regular rest, predictable rhythms of eating and sleeping, these are signals the liver understands. They tell it the environment is stable, enough to invest energy in repair, rather than defense. Extremes, even well-intentioned ones, often signal threat rather than care. There is also humility in recognizing how much the body does without our awareness. While the conscious mind worries about cleansing and control, the liver is quietly neutralizing compounds, recycling nutrients, regulating energy availability, and coordinating with nearly every other system in the body. It asks very little in return, yet gives continuously. When we frame health as a partnership instead of a battle, behaviors shift naturally. We become less interested in forcing rapid change and more interested in creating conditions that feel sustainable. This perspective softens urgency. It replaces fear with curiosity. Instead of asking how to purge what doesn't belong, we ask how to support what already knows how to heal. The body responds remarkably well to being trusted. When we meet its intelligence with patience and respect, balance stops feeling like something we chase and starts feeling like something we allowed to re-emerge gradually, quietly, and in alignment with how life actually moves.